Hey guys, welcome back to Wiles HVAC and stuff. Today we're going to learn how to make strawberry wine, because who doesn't like homemade wine? Strawberry is super easy to do. There's a lot of different recipes out there. You can make wine out of just about any fruit. Anybody out there can do it. It's not complicated. You just have to have a couple small tools and know how to do it, what additives to use, what order, and everything like that. So for our strawberry wine, we do a 5-gallon batch at a time. So it'll take 15 pounds of strawberries. And then we'll measure the amount of sugar once we figure out how much sugar is actually in the berry naturally. And then we've got a couple additives that we use, but first things first, got to make sure everything's clean. I use one step, no rinse sanitizer. Everything has to be washed, double scrubbed, and then the no rinse sanitizer ran through it. The original fermenter, as well as you'll see later in the later videos, we'll use the secondary fermenter. Everything has to be sanitized, countertops wiped down, clean, everything. I can't stress that enough. That is the number one thing with it, is make sure everything's sanitized. So big believer in the one-step sanitizer. Make sure you use that. So what we're going to do is, I already have my water in there. To start a 5-gallon batch, you need 3.5 gallons of water. I've already put it in there, so you didn't have to watch me pour the water in. But with that, we use purified water. I just use the purified water that we have for our sink at our house. We have an inline filter underneath, so it's pretty good tasting water. That's the biggest thing, is it needs to be clean, it needs to taste good, no chlorinated water that has a bad taste, anything like that. Just good clean water. 3.5 gallons to start. Then we're going to take our additives, which will be more additives to it tomorrow, but I've already got them measured out here for us. We have 2.5 teaspoons of tannin, 5 teaspoons of acid blend, and 1/4 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. I've already got it in there. We're going to take that and just spread it across our water there, and everything will be stirred in here in a minute. But make sure you put your additives in there, and like I said, there'll be a few more that go in tomorrow, but so make sure they all go in there. There we go. So all of our additives are in. Now what I do as far as the fruit themselves, I take cheesecloth, works great. I'm going to take all the strawberries that we have here. Like I said, we have about 15 pounds worth of strawberries all together. I'm going to take them out, pile them up in that cheesecloth, and then tie the cheesecloth tight, and then put it down in the water, because once we do that, we don't want, you can put the strawberries straight in the water, but I like to keep them in the cheesecloth. That way all the seeds, the pulp, everything like that, I can take it out all as one later on when we go to rack everything. So we'll get these tied up and I'll get them in there, and then here in just a second I'll show you how to check the sugar. So all of our fruit is in there. We've got 15 pounds of strawberries in the bag, in the water. We've got 3.5 gallons of water in there, plus our additives that we put in now. We've stirred it up a little bit. You want to squish the bag around a little to get some of the juices out of the strawberries. But what we're going to do now is we're going to check the specific gravity on the must, what we have so far, because we have not added any sugar to it yet. The strawberries themselves have natural sugar in them, and you never know how much sugar is going to be in each fruit, different batches and things like that. There's a lot of recipes out there that say you just automatically add 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 8 pounds, whatever it is, of sugar for a 5-gallon batch of wine. I like to control how much alcohol is actually in that wine. I want this to be about a 12 to 14% by volume. So we're going to use a hygrometer to check the specific gravity on it. So before we add sugar, we'll check the specific gravity, and then we will keep adding sugar to it until we get that perfect what we want, which will start it at 1.110 specific gravity, and then we'll let that work for, usually it's about a week to 2 weeks, so we can get it worked down until we're at 0.990 specific gravity. But that 1.110 is what we want to start at, because it's all about a matter of where we start to where we finish as far as how much alcohol will be in it. Because you don't want to have too high of an alcohol content. For one, it can kill the yeast, and two, you can have some off taste in it and things like that. But we still want to have a little bit of liquor in it because we want to have fun with it. It's homemade wine after all, so we got to have fun with it. So we want to control it. So like I said, we're going to check specific gravity, and then I'm just going to keep adding sugar in there until we get it right. As far as how to use the specific gravity or how to use a hygrometer, we have a very specific video on the channel for that. Check that out, Wiles HVAC and stuff on YouTube. but it tells you exactly how to use a hygrometer with the chart and everything like that. So we're not going to get too into it today because I've got sugar to put in here. So be right back. All right, so we've got all of our sugar in there now. We just kept adding sugar, maybe a cup, 2 cups at a time, checking the specific gravity every time with our hygrometer until we get to that 1.110, and that's where we're perfect. So that's exactly where we're at right now. So we've got the sugar, the berries, the additives and everything like that in there for now. I don't want to put the yeast in it yet. We're going to let this sit for at minimum 12 hours before we add any yeast to anything, because with the potassium metabisulfite in there, that the purpose of that is to kill any kind of wild yeast strains. So if we put that in there and we try to put our yeast in it, it may kill our yeast and then it just won't do anything at all. But either way, we want to kill everything, let it stabilize, and then we'll start from scratch. Because at that point, that must will be stabilized, sanitized, everything like that. So we're just going to take this, put it in a room where nobody's at for the next at least 12 hours, cover it with a towel, that way nothing can get in it, but it can still breathe. So 12 hours later, I'll show you how to put the yeast and everything like that in, and we'll go from there. Guys, so it's been right about 24 hours. Like I said, we need to wait at least 12 hours minimum before we add the yeast and other ingredients into it. We had some stuff to do today, so it went right about 12 hours or 24 hours altogether. So we know everything's been worked in there. I've already went ahead and double checked the specific gravity again. We want to make sure 100% we are where we want to start from, because there's no going back after this point. So we are right at that 1.110 specific gravity. I've already checked it, and now I've got the yeast ready. I actually already got the yeast working. I didn't figure you guys needed to see how that works. So I got the yeast ready in a bowl there, so we're going to go ahead and add it to the tub. Make sure it's all in there. And then we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. Again, I already added everything, and I always like to mix everything up with a little bit of water before I put it in the fermenter. I don't like to just sprinkle it on the top, because a lot of it clumps up and falls to the bottom and doesn't really get mixed in there. So I like to have it mixed up. So in here we have 4 teaspoons of yeast nutrient, 2 teaspoons of yeast energizer, and 3 teaspoons of pectic enzyme. And like I said, already mixed up there, so we'll pour it in. Make sure it all makes it in there. Stir it all up. Alright, so now we'll be ready. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this primary fermenter, we're going to put it in a room where there's nobody's in there very often, so it doesn't get moved around. Put a towel over it, that way it can still breathe. Twice a day we'll come in and agitate the wine. Just stir it up, make sure all the dead yeast on the bottom, the sugar in there, everything, make sure it's all moved around, because the wine has to be degassed. We have to make sure all the carbon dioxide comes out of the wine. So twice a day, morning and night, agitate it really well, and once a day check the specific gravity, and we will watch the specific gravity go down each day until we are at 0.990. At that point we'll be done and ready for the next step. So see how this goes. On average, we're usually about a week to 2 weeks, somewhere in there, for it to get down to that 0.990. So we will see you then.